The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, ADM Software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users. On demand on iTunes, on demand on YouTube, and now, thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, distributed to cable networks serving an additional 12 million households. I'm your host, Gary Baumgarten. We're having trouble connecting just for the moment with Michael Levi. He is our guest today. He is with the Council on Foreign Relations. He's a scholar and a nuclear terrorism expert. And he will be here, hopefully, in just a second, to talk about his new book, which is called On Nuclear Terrorism, in which he takes an in-depth look at nuclear plots from the perspective of would-be terrorists and uses that to explain how the United States should build a smart defense, whatever that means. The book comes to the conclusion that nuclear terrorism is much harder than most people think it is, but there's a lot more we can do to prevent it than many suppose. You'll also be able to talk to us about Iran and its nuclear weapons aspirations or lack thereof. I find it very interesting that up until a couple of weeks ago, the world was pretty much convinced that Iran did present a threat, a nuclear weapons threat, that they were attempting to build nuclear weapons. This did not just come from the United States. This came from the United Nations, the International Atomic Energy Commission, which is a branch of the United Nations, fully in belief that Iran was going ahead and not just developing nuclear capability for peaceful means, but for the purposes of building weapons, nuclear weapons. There was some debate as to how far along they were and how successful the economic constraints imposed upon Iran were to hold them in check. But I think everybody pretty much believed that he had Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, the president of Iran, had nuclear weapons aspirations, and that he was not moving forward toward allowing the verification of his dismantling of his nuclear weapons program in favor of just developing nuclear energy. But we see this report that came out, this intelligence assessment report that was publicly issued a couple weeks ago, which suggests, well, several years ago, Iran dismantled its nuclear weapons program. And since then, it's been like Spin City, because everybody has been running to the microphones and to the cameras and to the keyboards to give their point of view on whether or not Iran presents a threat. Well, I'm happy to say that Michael Levi is now with us. Unfortunately, Michael, you did not hear the most eloquent introduction of you that you will have heard in 2007. Perhaps 2008 somebody will top me, but I got to tell you that it was a wonderful introduction that you missed. But we're so happy you're here. Welcome to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com.
You sure you can't repeat it?
Oh, I'd be happy to repeat it. You can. It's going to be on iTunes and on YouTube, so you can come back and listen to it any time that you would like. Any time that you would like. Besides, if I screwed up, I don't want to embarrass myself twice. You know, once is enough. Your book on nuclear terrorism speaks, as I understand it, about nuclear plots from the perspective of the would-be terrorists. What exactly does that mean?
What that means is that to understand how to defend against nuclear terrorism, you need to think about how your adversary is approaching a plot. That means you need to think about the options it would have, and you also need to think, really importantly, about how it would make decisions, how it makes choices. When we think about nuclear terrorism in the nuclear community, we have a habit of fixating only on what a group could do. It could do this particularly challenging thing, this particularly scary thing, instead of focusing on what a group would do. And there's a big, big difference. And we see this not just with terrorist groups, we see this with Iran. You were just talking about Iran a moment ago. There are a variety of things Iran could have been doing. It turns out it wasn't doing them. And the question is, what did we do to influence them, to make them change course? And the same question should come up when we think about nuclear terrorism. It's not just how do we physically stop them from attempting attacks, it's how do we influence them to go about things in a way that they're less likely to succeed and less likely to do us harm.
So Michael Levi, scholar at the Council of Foreign Relations and an expert on nuclear terrorism threats around the world, and author of the book On Nuclear Terrorism. Did Iran actually change course, and was the intelligence community aware of that several years ago when they did? Or is this brand new information that is just reaching their ears and they are telling us now?
Well, there are two important things here. Firstly, while it's not entirely clear exactly when information came in, when it was digested, that part is still secret. It appears that this is pretty new information about something that happened 4 years ago. What happened 4 years ago? It appears that Iran stopped a certain part of its program. To make a nuclear weapon, you need to acquire nuclear materials. That's plutonium, or what we call highly enriched uranium. That was what Iran was focusing on, highly enriched uranium. And then you need to turn that into a bomb. The hardest part of that process is making the highly enriched uranium. What Iran stopped was its effort to turn that into a bomb. Okay? It didn't stop its technology efforts that would let it produce the nuclear materials eventually. So we've got a mix of good news and no news. We've got good news that Iran stopped its explicitly military effort of preparing to turn material into a bomb, but it's continuing to work on its program to create material that then could be used in a weapon, and that's the hardest hurdle, and it's still trying to clear that. So this isn't a sign that we should let up. It's a sign that we can influence what Iran does. It apparently responded to outside pressure, but it means that we still need to keep looking for a solution. The challenge is far from over.
So do you believe that the economic constraints that the world, led by the United States, has imposed upon Iran changed that course at all?
Economic constraints can make a difference. I don't know that they've had an effect in recent years, but you have to think back to when this decision was made in 2003. What happened was a mix of things, and it's hard to figure out exactly what affected them. But they had just had a big part of their nuclear program exposed, and they saw the potential for strong action